The voice of Woodward Bernstein was not to be heard of at all. It was all about Nixon. Nixon controlled the universe at that time politically.
At 88, Robert Redford remains one of Hollywood's most respected legends, an actor, director, and producer who built a career on integrity and talent. But behind the charm and golden boy image lies a history of tension, clashes, and broken relationships. For decades, Redford worked with some of the biggest names in cinema, yet not all of those partnerships ended well. So, who exactly are the 7 actors that Robert Redford secretly disliked the most, and why did admiration turn into resentment? Join us as we reveal the truth behind Hollywood's golden man and his hidden grudges. Number 7. Robert Redford's complicated rift with Deborah Winger. Robert Redford's relationship with Deborah Winger is one of the lowest. Their relationship on the set of the filming of Dangerously Together, where both of them were co-stars, was anything but smooth. According to reports at that period, the atmosphere was very tense, and Redford had a hard time coping with the temperament of Winger. Both Redford and Winger were not getting along on set, and their working style was completely different and was not matching. However, to the surprise of many around them, that rocky professional beginning gradually turned into something more personal. Redford and Winger even became romantically involved, something that even their colleagues did not anticipate. There was a fleeting moment of apparent attraction that seemed to spark between them, born out of the tension and friction they constantly shared. However, the romance, much like their fragile and strained working relationship, proved to be short-lived. The break came swiftly and painfully for Redford. Winger ended up leaving him and began a relationship with one of his friends, actor Timothy Hutton. That betrayal cut deeply, not only because Redford had been involved with her, but also because it came from someone within his own circle. Winger went on to marry Hutton, and together they had their first child, a fact that only made the wound feel sharper for Redford. After that chapter, Redford's feelings toward Winger hardened into dislike. Whatever spark had once existed between them was buried under bitterness. He struggled to forgive her both for the difficult experience of working together and for the personal hurt that followed. To him, Winger became someone untrustworthy, both professionally and personally. Their story serves as one of the more complicated and sour relationships in Redford's life, blending creative conflict with personal betrayal. But was there ever a situation where the hate was really bad that Redford couldn't stand the person? Number 6. Woody Allen. In Hollywood, the relationship between professionals can sometimes deteriorate to the point where it creates lasting scars. One such relationship was with Woody Allen in the case of Robert Redford. Although both men worked in the same industry and were frequently discussed as one of the most powerful men of the time, Redford's actions showed that he could not stand Allen. The story goes that Redford once had an unpleasant encounter with Allen at a table. The exchange was so disagreeable that Redford did not just leave the table, he walked away and made sure never to sit down with Allen again. This was not a situation where a simple misunderstanding is forgotten with time, but a permanent separation. That experience was enough for Redford to set a limit that he never let Allen cross again. Redford was not the type who courted drama, but his reaction to Allen indicated that he was badly shaken by the encounter. In opting to keep a distance between himself and the fallout, Redford made it clear that it was not a fallout that he was interested in mending. In an industry where people often put up with one another for the sake of appearances or opportunities, Redford's choice stood out as firm and final. Although he never went into lengthy detail about what exactly transpired, the result spoke volumes. To him, Allen was not a colleague worth engaging with, and their paths remained separate from that moment forward. It was a decision that underlined how strongly Redford felt about the encounter. Another actor Robert Redford just could not stand was Woody Allen, and unlike many temporary rifts in Hollywood, this one left no room for reconciliation. Eventually, the reason for the strong dislike was revealed. In the 1980s, Robert Redford declined the opportunity to appear in a film directed by Woody Allen, and his decision had little to do with the screenplay itself. Instead, Redford's choice was influenced by his personal perception of Allen as a filmmaker. As Redford sees it, Allen was not a person who appeared to be interested in establishing a just or equitable workplace. Instead, Redford found him to be the kind of director who was intentionally disruptive with his actors, tending to force them into uncomfortable situations rather than to create a collaborative or respectful creative environment on set. If Redford could so easily walk away from Allen after a single encounter, what would happen when he was forced to share the screen with a legend whose self-destruction played out in front of him every day? Number 5. Marlon Brando. When Robert Redford looked back on his early days in Hollywood, one memory that stood out for him was working with Marlon Brando on the 1966 film The Chase. Decades later, during a public talk at the Telluride Film Festival in 2013, Redford spoke candidly about the experience, and it was clear that he had never been entirely comfortable with Brando's approach to the craft. Redford described Brando's performance as if the older actor was throwing away his talent, almost squandering the brilliance that had made him a star. He recalled watching Brando act as though he no longer cared, as if he was deliberately holding something back. Redford felt Brando was not simply playing a role, but wrestling with himself on screen, trying to erase or turn away from something buried deep in his past. For Redford, witnessing that kind of self-sabotage was painful. He admitted he could hardly watch Brando work because it seemed destructive rather than inspiring. To Redford, Brando was a man battling ghosts, and instead of confronting them, he appeared to be running from them while the camera rolled. That left Redford with the impression that Brando had checked out emotionally, refusing to fully invest in the part. Rather than looking at an experienced actor in the peak of his career, Redford looked at a character overwhelmed by his inner demons and struggling in a movie that required a lot more of him. The remarks were not tender nostalgia, but sharp criticism. Redford made it clear that he did not enjoy the collaboration, and his disappointment still lingered years later. In his view, Brando's behavior on The Chase revealed a man wasting his own gift, and that left a lasting mark on Redford's memory of working with him. Watching a legend waste his gift was one thing, but what happens when the problem is raw talent that refuses to bend? Number 4. James McAvoy. Robert Redford's career has spanned decades, and with it comes a reputation for high standards, both for himself and those he worked with. While Redford has praised many actors over the years, his collaboration with James McAvoy revealed a different side of him. McAvoy himself later reflected that although he regarded Redford as an amazing actor and great director, the partnership was not without tension. From McAvoy's perspective, Redford seemed to want a performance that mirrored his own restrained, naturalistic style. Redford had established a career based on understatement, subtle gestures, and quiet intensity, and he seemed to want the same of the actors he directed. McAvoy, however, despite his undeniable talent, unique energy, and distinctive style, was unable to fully embody the image that Redford had carefully envisioned for the character. As a result, he could not seamlessly fit into the role. This creative difference left Redford feeling unsatisfied, as though something essential and deeply important was missing from the performance. McAvoy admitted that he felt Redford did not know how to draw that performance out of him. Such an inability caused a feeling of frustration on the set. Redford was a perfectionist who liked to be in control, and it seems that he felt cheated that McAvoy did not perform as he had planned. There was nothing in the form of overt aggression or personal conflict, but there was a certain sense of disconnection. To Redford, this anger might have transformed into dislike. He was not a person who would keep his disapproval to himself when he felt an actor did not live up to his expectations, and McAvoy sensed that energy. The collaboration ultimately left McAvoy feeling as though he had let Redford down, while Redford seemed to walk away unimpressed. But if Redford's frustration with McAvoy revealed his struggles with younger actors, what happened when he faced a star whose fame and willpower could rival his own, one who refused to be directed? Number 3. Barbra Streisand. Robert Redford has always been selective about the people he worked with, and one name that reportedly gave him serious hesitation was Barbra Streisand. Though Streisand was already a major star, known for her powerhouse voice and presence, Redford was reluctant to share the screen with her. His concern, as he once expressed, was that she was not a serious actress in the way he valued. Her talent was undeniable, but to him it did not fit with the type of acting he admired and wanted to get involved in. Beyond questions of her craft, Redford also had reservations about her working style. He reportedly remarked that Streisand had a reputation for being extremely controlling on set. According to him, she would not just play her part, but would also try to direct herself, shaping the performance in her own way rather than allowing a natural collaboration. For Redford, who cherished authenticity and subtlety, this was a red flag. He believed it would never work between them, and the thought of navigating that dynamic clearly did not appeal to him. His remarks indicated that the conflict was not really about ability, but rather temperament. Redford was fond of actors who gave themselves completely to the role and the vision of the director, and Streisand was confident and strong-willed, which gave a hint that she might overpower both. For him, the idea of partnering with her on screen was not a promising match, but a creative risk he was unwilling to take. He also went as far as protecting himself on set. It was reported that while they were filming, he needed more protection, and he reportedly forced himself to wear 2 pairs of underwear because Streisand was infatuated with him, which made him very uncomfortable. But if Redford thought clashing with strong-willed co-stars was difficult, what happens when the rift comes from someone he once helped rise to fame? Number 2. Steven Soderbergh. In the early days of Steven Soderbergh's career, Robert Redford played an important role. When Soderbergh's Lies and Videotape premiered at the Sundance Film Festival, which Redford had founded, it marked a turning point for both the director and independent cinema. Their relationship began on a high note, with Redford appearing to champion Soderbergh as one of the bright new voices of film. For a time, there seemed to be genuine mutual respect. But things shifted years later with the film Quiz Show. Soderbergh had been one of the first to champion the project, seeing its potential and working to get it moving. Yet when the film was eventually made, it was Redford who directed it, and the credit fell squarely on his shoulders. To Soderbergh, it looked as though Redford had maneuvered the project away from him, taking the opportunity for himself. He did not hide his frustration, making clear that he felt undermined. Redford, however, disliked the implication. He had built a reputation on integrity, carefully choosing projects that aligned with his vision. Being branded as a person who stole credit or twisted the situation was insulting to him. He resented the implication, which he considered to be unfair and baseless. From his perspective, the film was his to direct, and his long career had never required underhanded tactics to secure a role or project. The conflict left a scar that could not be healed completely. Soderbergh saw Redford as opportunistic, while Redford disliked Soderbergh for suggesting he was anything but straightforward. Part of what Redford found disillusioning was the fallout, as well as the fact that someone he had once supported no longer trusted his motives. Has Redford's strong dislike had a devastating effect on someone he didn't get along with? Number 1. Arthur Lawrence. Robert Redford has had a long career and many memorable films, but not every relationship has been smooth behind the scenes. One of the most stormy was when he was making The Way We Were in 1973, when he went against screenwriter Arthur Lawrence. The tension between the two was strong enough to leave a lasting mark, and it was clear the dislike ran both ways. Lawrence did not hold back his opinion of Redford. He once described the actor as a weasel, impossible, egocentric, words that revealed just how strained their relationship had become. His frustration stemmed from the way Redford, along with director Sidney Pollack, challenged him over script decisions. Lawrence was convinced in his story and characters, but Redford was resisting, which was an indication that he saw something wrong, that Lawrence did not. To Redford, who was obsessive about character development and dialogue, collaboration with a writer who could not bend was frustrating. The situation got so out of control that Lawrence had to be fired off the project only to be hired again. The process of dismissal and reinstatement showed how poisonous the environment had been. Redford believed Lawrence to be too inflexible and was not ready to cooperate, and was more interested in preserving his words than creating the best film. Lawrence was hard, confrontational, and did not like to compromise, which was an issue to an actor who believed in team effort and trust on the set. Lawrence, in his turn, regarded Redford as self-centered and manipulative, the person who wanted to have control but created the illusion of being charming. The outcome was an antipathy between the two. Redford found Lawrence to be obstructionist and self-centered, and Lawrence found Redford to be insincere and power-seeking. The Way We Were became a classic, but to the people behind the camera, it was also a battleground of egos. Do you think Robert Redford was the problem? Is there a possibility that some of the fights and tension Robert Redford had might be solved? Share your thoughts with us in the comments section. Remember to like, share, and subscribe for more. Also, click the next video showing on your screen. You will enjoy it.